Greece's Coast Guard carries out rescue operations after 2 migrant boats sank, one off the islands of Lesbos and the other on the island of Kythira.
The Coast Guard said it had recovered the bodies of 15 people in 2 separate migrant boat sinkings, with several more feared missing. More details on this later in the news. Good evening. I'm CJ Hero.
And I am Nina Rich Yelago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. And now for the headlines.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. touts his key achievements in his first 100 days in office. The Philippines is ready to play a key role in peacekeeping efforts in Southeast Asian region, says President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. 34 killed, including 23 children, after a former police officer stormed a nursery center in northeastern Thailand before killing himself and his family. Oil petroleum exporting countries, or OPEC Plus, confirms oil production cut by 2 million barrels a day. And North Korea fires 2 ballistic missiles in retaliation to the joint military drills of South Korea and the United States.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. considers the fulfillment of some of his campaign promises early on during his administration as a key achievement in his first 100 days in office. What are those? Let's hear more from Eden Santos.
2 days before the first 100 days of the Marcos administration, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. enumerated what he considers as his key achievements since his assumption to power. During the question and answer portion of the President's Night of the Manila Overseas Press Club, or MOPC, on Wednesday night, President Marcos said assembling the best and the brightest to serve the administration and galvanizing the government to be functional as part of his key achievements in the first 100 days. Marcos assumed his administration facing various challenges, from increasing prices of petroleum products and the lingering effects of the pandemic. The chief executive added that his administration still enjoys the unifying factor of the elections, where he voted by majority of the Filipinos.
But beyond that, I think that we still continue to enjoy that the unifying force that the elections became. Generally speaking, elections are polarizing. And of course, and even in this case, it was polarizing, but at least a very strong majority made itself felt. And I think that is something that we continue to use as our foundation. And with that, what the promises that were made during the campaign, for example, that we bring the best and the brightest, and we do not look at color in terms of political color, I think we have done that. And more importantly, we have galvanized government once again into governing.
The president admitted that he is worried about complacency in the government. He is rallying to unite people in the public service to achieve the goals set by his administration.
And the one thing I worry about very, very much is coasting. Put an impetus into government. Come on, let's go. We need to do these things. We haven't very much time. We have very many difficulties. We cannot count on other countries to help us in ways that they used to be able to help us. So it is up to us. But I think all of those, at least in the higher positions in government, and even slowly, it's filtering down to the rank and file. are beginning to feel that no, there is a point to government. There is something that we need to be doing. And this is the direction we are being led in. These are the things that we are going to do.
Marcos also mentioned the success of his foreign trips in Indonesia, Singapore, and the United States, where he participates at the 77th United Nations General Assembly and renewed the country's friendship with allies. Marcos said the first 2 months of his administration addressed important issues such as the sugar supply woes and the rising prices of fertilizer by looking for non-traditional sources of commodities. Marcos confirmed that the country is considering acquiring fuel and fertilizer from Russia and feed wheat from Ukraine, the two countries who are now at war.
We have already made it clear where the Philippines stands in all of this. And it is something that I made clear again to the other leaders. And I said that we are essentially driven by our desire for peace. And all the economic development that we plan and all that we hope to do will come to naught unless there is peace.
Eden Santos reporting for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Philippines will be the leading agricultural resource hub in the world. Now, this was the message or primary message of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. as he led the opening of AgriLink, FoodLink, and AquaLink 2022 in Pasay City. Marcos said he is confident that the goal can be achieved with our energies and resources combined. The country can achieve not only its goal to feed the Filipino people, but also the world. The activity held at World Trade Center focuses on the Caraga region, which is known to be a strong producer of high-value crops such as cacao, coffee, and abaca. The president added that the time to again lay the path for the country's agricultural industrialization is now. The chief executive also acknowledges the contribution of farmers, fisher folks, livestock farmers, and breeders as the country's great unsung heroes.
Because of them, we have food on our tables. Because of them, we have the sustenance we need to pursue our endeavors for the betterment of our nation. We will build ourselves back better together with the people who have been our bedrock of strength and of sustenance, even the most challenging times.
The country's unemployment rate climbed to 5.3% in August from 5.2% in July. The recent labor force survey of the Philippine Statistics Authority showed the number represented 2.6 million Filipinos who were jobless. Although the August's jobless rate translated to 79,000 more unemployed compared to July, the statistics was lower by 1.2 million if compared to August 2021's 8.1% rate. The highest drop in the unemployment was registered in fishing and aquaculture, construction, arts, entertainment and recreation, human health, social work activities, and real estate activities. Meanwhile, the unemployment rate, or the number of workers looking for more jobs or working hours, also climbed to 14.7%, or equivalent to 7.03 million workers, higher than the 6.54 million underemployed in July 2022 at 13.8%. Unemployment and underemployment both increased despite more Filipinos joining the job market and getting the job in August.
Amid world uncertainty due to geopolitical tensions, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said the Philippines is ready to take the lead in efforts to maintain peace in the region. The president acknowledges that it is not one country or one head of state that can spearhead peacekeeping efforts, but the country hopes to be one leading such measures in front of the security concerns affecting the region. Vin Pascua tells us more.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is ready to take the lead in peacemaking, at least on the regional level, to ensure peace and security. During the question and answer session of the Manila Overseas Press Club, or MOPC, the president was asked if he wanted to be the leader in peacemaking negotiations amid the current geopolitical tensions. The president said the Philippines has a vital role to play, particularly amid the Ukraine-Russia war, the U.S.-China tension over Taiwan, and the recent missile testing by North Korea. The president pointed out that if Russia uses tactical nuclear warheads against Ukraine and it becomes acceptable, it might encourage other nuclear powers to do the same, elevating the global uncertainty to a new level.
So we have a very important part to play in that because we have a great interest. We have it must be a subject of central concern in our foreign policy and in the defense of the nation in the Philippines. So I do not think we have a choice. We must play a leadership role because it is in our interest. And if we do not do it, we are not doing our jobs as the protectors of our country, of our state, of our territory, of our people, if we do not take that leadership role.
Regionally, Marcos suggested that the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, must be strengthened to make it more responsive to future challenges and to enable the regional bloc to do more than what it has accomplished so far. The chief executive said ASEAN member countries must present a united front. The chief executive said, noting it is the best way forward simply because of moral suasion of several ASEAN members, which is more effective than just doing the negotiation bilaterally.
I think we should continue to try and push our member neighbors to present that united front and to move that united front forward so that we can say that ASEAN as a political, geopolitical aggregation, economic aggregation, has certainly shown that it has a function to do in the normal scheme of the geopolitics.
Vin Pascua reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Western Command of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, has successfully resupplied BRP Sierra Madre in Ayungin Shoal. The resupply operation on October 5 included food supplies, water, medicines, and other supplies, as well as maintenance and repair equipment needed by the Philippine Navy ship and its crew. The Philippine Navy contracted commercial boats safely entered and exited Ayungin Shoal, a territory also claimed by China. This is the third consecutive resupply activity undertaken by the government with neither any escort nor untoward incident. According to the crew of the supply boats, they noticed the presence of 2 China Coast Guard and 5 Chinese militia vessels as they safely entered and exited the Ayungin Shoal on their own. Meanwhile, the Philippine Coast Guard's BRP Malapascua was conducting patrol in the West Philippine Sea during the conduct of the resupply run.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has appointed Ernesto Ferdinand Maceda Jr. as Commissioner of the Commission on Elections. In a statement, COMELEC said the president also reappointed Commissioner Nelson Celis to the poll body. The office of the executive secretary has confirmed the appointments. Maceda, as ad interim commissioner, will replace Chairman George Garcia in the latter's appointment as commissioner. Both Maceda and Celis will serve a term expiring on February 2, 2029.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is set to name his new press secretary. The president told palace reporters that he is weighing in 3 candidates for the post. However, the president did not mention any additional details on the matter. The president added that the next press secretary is someone qualified in delivering his administration's message to the public.
We're down to a short list of 3. So we're whittling it down. Malapit na yan because parang hindi na ako haharap dito sa inyo. Meron na.
Who are they? Hindi na lang, sir. Sino po yung tatlo?
No, it wouldn't be fair to them kasi yung hindi mapili, they will be, So, let's just say, what's today? Today's Thursday. Yeah, well, we should, early next week, we'll announce. Yung kaibigan ninyo. Kaibigan No, obviously you need somebody who's very experienced is probably a journalist or is is a media practitioner. Yun naman ang kailangan, na marunong mag-messaging para yung mga gusto namin palabasin talagang lumalabas. That's what's important, that we get the information, the messaging across.
Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles is among the 3 officials from the administration who resigned from their posts. The other 2 are Commission on Audit Chairman Jose Calida and former Executive Secretary Victor Rodriguez.
Media will be supported and protected under the Marcos administration. This was President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s vow as he addressed media personalities at Wednesday's President's Night of the Manila Overseas Press Club, or MOPC. During his speech, the chief executive also cited the important role of media in the development of the country. The president said he will remain committed and will constantly communicate as the country progresses to move forward. He also urged the media to effectively communicate the government's efforts and initiatives towards the country's development.
Under my lead, we will support and protect the rights of the media as they efficiently perform their duty. I underscore the crucial role of the press in building an active citizen, one that contributes to the development of our society. Your proactive participation in keeping well-informed citizenry forms part of our collective goal to empower Filipinos and establish a more robust Philippines.
Interior and Local Government Secretary Benher Abalos has offered a ₱500,000 or 500,000 peso reward to anyone who can give information on the suspects in the killing of radio broadcaster Percy Lapid or Percival Mabasa. Abalos visited the wake of Mabasa and assured the family that the government is willing to use all its resources to probe and bring justice to Mabasa's death. Earlier today, Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin also visited the wake of Mabasa. He conveyed to the family President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s message of sympathies and condolences. He also assured the president's directive to the police to promptly resolve the killing. Authorities are focusing their probe now on the dash cam of Mabasa's car containing events that transpired before his assassination. The 2 perpetrators riding a motorcycle were seen following Mabasa's car, and when he stopped in a traffic, the assassin shot him. The dashcam video and the CCTV footage are now undergoing digital footage enhancement with the PNP anti-cybercrime group to identify the suspects. Coming up, Thai gunmen stormed nursery center, killing at least 35, including 23 children. European Union approves 8th package of Russia's sanctions. And North Korea fired two ballistic missiles. U.S. blames China and Russia. More news coming your way. Please stay tuned.
This portion. Kurot sa puso.
Well, when you put your mind to it, you are unstoppable. Bilib na bilib kami sa'yo, Rochelle, ha?
Only good vibes at tawanan.
Hindi, sige, tinatawag doon.
Ano
Sisi.
Asisi.
May init na issue kanilang hihimayin.
100 million na pondo. There's no cap. So I can buy 1,000, 5,000.
Sagot yan ng mga smart at pretty nanays ng ASPN. Lunes hanggang Biyernes, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Dito lang sa Net 25.
We bring you more news updates here on Mata ng Agila International. 35 were killed after a former police officer armed with a gun and a knife stormed a nursery in northeast Thailand on Thursday, shooting dead the victims before killing himself and his family. Let's hear more details from Cristel Mapa.
A former police officer armed with a gun and a knife stormed a nursery in northeast Thailand on Thursday, shooting dead at least 30 people, including children, before killing himself and his family, police said. The attacker, armed with a shotgun, a pistol, and a knife, opened fire on the children's center in Nong Bua Lampu province at about 12:30 p.m. before fleeing the scene in a vehicle, the force said. The death toll from the shooting incident is at least 30 people. Anucha Burapay Sri, a spokesman for the Thai Prime Minister's office, said. Police Colonel Jakapat Vichayraitaya from the province where the attack happened identified the gunman as Panyakam Rab, a police lieutenant colonel he said was dismissed from the force last year for drug use. Jakapat said there were 23 children among the dead, aged 2 to 3 years old. The mass killing comes less than a month after a serving army officer shot dead 2 colleagues at a military training base in the capital, Bangkok. While Thailand has high rates of gun ownership, mass shootings are extremely rare. From Bangkok, Thailand, I am Cristel Mapa for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
At least 17 people died and almost 30 are still missing after high winds sank 2 migrant vessels in Greece. Authorities also lifted a few survivors to safety through the use of a crane. According to Coast Guard spokesman Nikos Kokalas, around 40 women of apparent African origin were passengers of a dinghy that sank east of the island of Lesbos in high winds. Of these numbers, 16 women and a young boy were rescued. Meanwhile, the second sinking near the island of Kitira, south of the Peloponnese Peninsula, has no initial report yet. After a few hours before the incident, the sailboat that was believed to carry around 95 people was alerted by the Coast Guard to a sailboat in distress, but still ran aground and sank near the island port of Diakofti. Some of the survivors reached the shore. 80 other asylum seekers from Iraq, Iran, and Afghanistan were located through an operation using vessels at sea with the help of the fire service and police on land.
In broad daylight, gunmen have shot dead the mayor of San Miguel Totolapan, Mexico, and at least 18 others, according to authorities. Local TV footage showed the facade of the municipal building riddled with bullets while people were heard screaming. Along with Mayor Conrado Mendoza Almeda, police officers and city council workers were also killed, the prosecutor's office told local media. Though the motive of the attack was not immediately known, the murder had been blamed on the Los Tequileros criminal gang, which is linked to a powerful drug cartel. On Twitter, Mendoza's leftist Party of the Democratic Revolution condemned the cowardly assassination and demanded justice. Meanwhile, the Guerrero State Prosecutor's Office vowed to arrest those responsible for the killing of Mendoza Almeda. A defense body that includes both state and federal officers also said it had deployed personnel to the area to expedite the investigation process.
The World Health Organization warns against 4 cough and cold syrups made by Maiden Pharmaceuticals in India. WHO says they could be linked to the deaths of 66 children in Gambia. WHO Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says laboratory analysis of samples of each of the 4 products confirms that they contain unacceptable amounts of diethylene glycol and ethylene glycol as contaminants. Tedros alerts that while the contested products had so far been found in the Gambia, they could have been distributed to other countries.
WHO recommends all countries detect and remove these products from circulation to prevent further harm to patients.
Oil prices are on their way up again after a decision by the OPEC Plus coalition to cut oil production by 2 million barrels a day. Members of the Saudi-led cartel include Russia. At a meeting Wednesday in Austria, they agreed to cut production beginning November to boost prices. It's a diplomatic slap in the face for U.S. President Joe Biden, who wanted to keep prices down and simultaneously cut Russia's oil revenues, which are financing its war with Ukraine. OPEC's move is seen as a concession to Russia. Saudi Arabia is one of the closest U.S. allies and the biggest single buyer of American weapons. It was hoped that when an international crisis came, the Gulf states would side with the U.S. instead of Russia and China.
The European Union formally approved and announced its 8th package of sanctions against Russia. Through its European Commission arm, EU stressed the new measures include import bans worth 7 billion euros, which included finished and semi-finished steel products, machinery and equipment, plastics and vehicles. The sanctions also included a ban on the export of coal, including coking coal, certain electronic components, and technical publications used in the aviation industry. Other news sources said that individuals involved with the referendums and the defense industry are also targeted. The Commission stressed while the EU's ban on importing Russian seaborne crude oil fully remains, the price cap, once implemented, would allow European operators to undertake and support the transport of Russian oil to third world countries, provided its price remains under a preset cap. Meanwhile, in televised remarks from a meeting with government officials, President Vladimir Putin said he expected sanctions pressure on the Russian economy to intensify. Putin also asked the government to draft effective microeconomic recovery plans to combat the increasing sanctions.
North Korea fired 2 ballistic missiles Thursday as it claimed its recent blitz of sanctions-busting tests was necessary countermeasures against joint military drills by the United States and South Korea. Seoul's military said it had detected 2 short-range ballistic missiles launched from the Samseok area in Pyongyang towards the East Sea, also known as the Sea of Japan. The first missile traveled 350 kilometers at a maximum altitude of around 80 kilometers, according to their analysis, with the second flying 800 kilometers at an altitude of 60 kilometers. An official from Seoul's Joint Chiefs of Staff said to reporters, it appears to be the first time North Korea has fired missiles from Samseok. He added that they look like a different type of short-range ballistic missile from previous launches. Tokyo also confirmed the launches, with Defense Minister Yasukazu Hamada telling reporters it was important not to overlook the significant improvement of Pyongyang's missile technology. During the United Nations Security Council meeting, Pyongyang blamed Washington for escalating the military tensions on the Korean peninsula. Yet, the U.S. accused Russia and China of protecting the North from stronger sanctions.
This is a clear effort by China and Russia to reward DPRK for their bad actions and cannot be taken seriously by this council. In light of the DPRK's escalating provocations and its returning to testing long-range systems, the purported basis for the resolution has no validity here. We need to turn quickly to strengthening the 718 sanctions regime, not considering sanctions relief.
However, North Korea's longtime ally and economic benefactor Beijing also blamed Washington for provoking the spate of launches by Kim Jong-un's regime.
奉行双重标准进行政治操弄，毒化了地区安全环境。在此背景下，半岛形势难免会走向紧张。历史经验表明。
Deputy Chinese Ambassador to the UN, Geng Shuang, also said North Korea's recent launches were closely related to military exercises in the region conducted by the United States and its allies. Gang said the council should promote the resumption of dialogue instead of widening differences and forging unity instead of creating divisions.
Seoul's military has apologized after a missile it launched during a drill on Tuesday malfunctioned and crashed to the ground. The live-fire drill caused alarm among nearby residents who thought they were under attack from Pyongyang. The military maneuver, which involved the South Korean and U.S. forces, was supposed to be a show of strength by the two parties, hours after Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un sent an intermediate-range missile over northern Japan. But the Allies' act ended in embarrassment when the short-range Homu-2 ballistic missile crashed to the ground inside an Air Force base near the South Korean coastal city of Gangneung. According to local reports, though the missile did not explode, the noise and ensuing fire caused some Gangneung residents to believe the North had launched an attack. The good thing was there were no reports of injuries, it said. The South Korean military acknowledged the accident hours. It also said it was investigating what had caused the abnormal flight of their missile, an integral part of its preemptive and retaliatory strike strategies against the North.
U.S. President Joe Biden is in Florida taking a first-hand look at the damage caused by Hurricane Ian. Biden toured Fort Myers with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Although the two are bitter critics of each other, they appear to have agreed on a truce. Since the storm struck, they have been in constant contact with each other. DeSantis acknowledged the federal government has responded quickly to calls for assistance. After witnessing the destruction, Biden said rebuilding is going to be a big job.
You know, when you walk around here, what's left of Fisherman's Wharf, and you don't have to have much of an imagination to understand that everything is historic, titanic, and unimaginable storm just ripped it to pieces. You got to start from scratch, got to move again. And it's going to take a lot of time, not weeks or months. It's going to take years for everything to get squared away in the state of Florida.
Next up, see the aftermath of fatal strikes on central Ukraine city of Zaporizhia. Ibrahim Traore appointed president of Burkina Faso. And nurses to vote on strike in Royal College of Nursing's first ever UK-wide ballot. Mata ng Agila International will return with more global news. Stay tuned.
Open for Business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
Russian strikes batter the central Ukraine city of Zaporizhia early Thursday, the region's governor said, in fatal attacks that tore through high-rise buildings and left a toddler injured. The Ukrainian-controlled city located in the Zaporizhia region is also home to the Russian-occupied nuclear plant that has been the area of heavy attacks. On the scene, rescue workers wearing hard helmets are clearing rubble with their hands while others search for people trapped beneath the debris. Firefighters are working to extinguish a blaze from a collapsed section of a building with pieces of jagged metal protruding. According to the region's Ukraine-appointed governor, the rescue operation is still ongoing, and as of now, 7 people who are injured are now being treated, including one 3-year-old child.
After more than 6 months, the remaining 23 passengers abducted from a passenger train in Nigeria have been freed. The passengers were taken captive in March when bandits attacked the train after stopping it. The gunmen then opened fire. 6 people died in that attack. A week later, 1 hostage was released. Then groups of other hostages were freed over the next several months. Although no group claimed responsibility for the attack, the Nigerian government blames the Islamic insurgent group Boko Haram. Government officials did not give any details of how the release of the captives was secured, nor did they comment on whether ransom was paid.
Captain Ibrahim Traore has been appointed as president of Burkina Faso after the West African country's second coup in less than 9 months. According to a government statement, Traore has been appointed as head of state and supreme head of the armed forces. The impoverished nation plunged into turmoil on the weekend when Lieutenant Colonel Paul Henry Sandaogo Damiba was toppled after seizing power in January. Burkina is struggling with a 7-year-old jihadist campaign. The violence has claimed thousands of lives, forced nearly 2 million people to flee their homes, and left more than a third of the country outside government control.
French energy giant Total Energies is under fire from environmentalists over a major oil project it has planned in Africa. The East African project involves the development of Ugandan oil fields and a pipeline to ship the product to Tanzania's Indian Ocean port of Tanga. Rights activists and environmental groups say it threatens the livelihoods of tens of thousands of people, as well as the region's fragile ecosystem. A report by Friends of the Earth says the pipeline will emit 34 million tons of carbon dioxide a year into the atmosphere. It adds people have had to sell their land at an unfair price under duress. Last week, the European Parliament voiced concern about the eviction of hundreds of people from their land without fair and adequate compensation. In response, Total says it will do everything possible to make an exemplary project.
A Taiwanese democracy activist imprisoned in China for 5 years described the court proceedings as a fascist circus. He also revealed that he was told to be released if he admitted to being a spy. For the first time, Li Ming-che spoke to the public since his return to Taipei last month, having a national security conviction that further strained already tense relations between Taipei and Beijing. Li shared that during his trip to the mainland, he was arrested and held incommunicado for months before being jailed in China in 2017, stating he had written and distributed online articles that criticized China's ruling Communist Party and promoted democracy. For a quicker release, the Chinese national security officials demanded Li to admit he was a Taiwanese government spy, but what Li admitted was the subversion that pertains to his act rather than betraying his own country by admitting he was a spy. Li said that China's law is not used to protect people's rights, but instead serves as a tool to make people unconditionally obey the state's rule.
Nurses are set to start casting their votes on whether to strike over pay in the first ever UK-wide ballot by the industry's largest union. From United Kingdom, Ryan Florentino reports.
For the first time in its 106th year history, the Royal College of Nursing, or RCN, will ask 300,000 of its members if they want to mount a campaign of industrial action. It comes amid warnings that record numbers of nurses are leaving the profession. The union wants nurses to be given a pay rise in line with the rate of inflation, which is currently 10.1%. The RCN said new analysis by London Economics has found that pay for nurses has declined at twice the rate of the private sector in the last decade, with their real terms earnings falling by 6%. In July, the government awarded most NHS staff a pay rise of at least 4.5%, which it said gave many workers a £1,400 salary increase. Members of the public are also invited to get involved in the union's demands by co-signing a letter to Prime Minister Liz Truss. The letter asks the government to see sense and protect nursing to protect the public. Governments have repeatedly neglected the NHS and the value of nursing. We can change this if together we say enough is enough, said RCN Chief Executive Pat Cullen in a message to members. Reporting from London, United Kingdom, I am Ryan Florentino for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
After a year marked by devastating East Coast floods, Sydney, Australia smashed its 7-decade annual rainfall record. This early afternoon, Australia's most populated city logged on record its highest annual rainfall, having a total of 2,216 millimeters, 86 days left before reaching the year-end. This year's record has a 22-millimeter difference from the previous wettest year recorded in 1950, which was also the highest recorded annual rainfall data since 1858. Sydney was seen having a La Nina weather pattern forecast, and it is expected to be significantly higher as it reaches the final 2022, leaving severe impacts. According to State Emergency Services Minister Steph Cook, catchments are saturated, dams are full, rivers are already swollen, and any additional rainfall, whether it is minor, will possibly intensify flooding conditions. Being at the forefront of climate change, Australia can expect frequent and more intense floods, bushfires, cyclones, and drought tendencies as the planet warms.
Despite the tensions from the war in Ukraine, the U.S. and Russia continue to cooperate in space exploration. It was a clear day as a SpaceX rocket blasted off from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida Wednesday. On board is a Russian crew member who is en route to the International Space Station. Just 2 weeks ago, an American astronaut caught a ride to the space station aboard a Russian Soyuz rocket. Sergei Krikalev, of the Russian space agency Roscosmos, says he does not see an end to cooperation on the space frontier between the two countries.
Talking about cooperation, I think we start to cooperate, as I said, many years ago, more than 40 years ago, and we will continue our cooperation as long as I can imagine.
After winning the Nobel Chemistry Prize, Caroline Bertozzi compares her work in click chemistry, which snaps molecules together, to Legos. Bertozzi says she won't click with any of the other toys, even very similar ones. They only click with a perfect match.
The chemistry that we do, the beauty of it is that you can take the two Legos and click them together, even if they're surrounded by millions of other very similar plastic toys, you know, and they won't click with any of the other toys, even very similar toys. They won't click with it, only click with each other. They're a perfect match. And that's an aspect of it as well.
Bertozzi says she understands the gravity of being the first woman to win the Nobel Prize this year and only the 8th woman ever to win the award for chemistry. But she is confident that the list will grow.
The chemistry, I'm glad I can help bring the number up a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I understand the gravity of it, of course, you know, having been my whole life, you know, in an underrepresented person in the sciences. So I understand the importance of it, and I think it's great that I can add to that list. And I think there'll be many more additions to the list as time goes on, and the trend is in the right direction.
When we come back, leading architect says world must drastically reduce use of cement. McDonald's begins accepting cryptocurrencies in Swiss town. And never-before-seen Beatles footage released in Japan. Let's all see that when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Sabi niyo, matilis sa pagkain niyo dito. Ano yan?
Ako po si Doc Willie. And you are?
I'm Abong. I'm willing to volunteer myself here in Health Clinic.
Hindi pa namin kailangan ng volunteers eh.
Tuturuan pa naman sana kita ng mga tekniko para sa girlfriend mo. Papakasalan kita. Mahal na mahal na mahal na mahal na mahal na mahal kita. Mabuhay ang bagong kasalan!
Good news sa lahat ng mahilig magluto at kumain.
May bago at katakam-takam na cooking show dito lamang sa Net25. Ako si Patty Daza.
Ako naman si Sandy Daza.
Samahan niyo kaming magpinsan dito sa Lutong Daza.
Bukod sa masarap at abot kaya na recipes, masarap ang kwentuhan at halakhakan dito.
At syempre, laging may special celebrity guest. Kainan na! Kita-kits!
Lutong Daza sa Net25.
Gotme, a French-Lebanese architect, advocates drastically reducing the use of concrete. She says using local materials by generalizing their reuse will help the planet in reinventing short circuits for the building sector to be sustainable in the face of climate change. Gotme says it is about hemp and flax, materials that can produce insulation materials in buildings and that are of biological origin or biosourced materials. She also mentions those that are geosourced minerals, materials such as stone, which are sustainable. She says stone is reusable and that stone remains stone. Giant fast food chain McDonald's started to accept Bitcoin as a payment method in the 63,000 populated city of Lugano, Switzerland. Bitcoin magazine also uploaded on Twitter a 1-minute video of ordering food on McDonald's digital kiosk and then paying for it at the regular register with the help of a mobile app. The Tether logo could be spotted next to the Bitcoin symbol on the credit cash machine. The move is not surprising since Lugano announced last March that it would accept Bitcoin, Tether, and the LVGA token as legal tender. The novelty comes as the town has begun embracing crypto under its special status. In fact, Lugano has enabled residents to pay taxes with crypto. And soon it will extend crypto payments for parking tickets and public services, among others. Actor Alec Baldwin has reached a civil settlement with the family of the woman he accidentally shot dead on a film set last year. The U.S. actor was holding a Colt gun during a rehearsal for Rust, a low-budget Western being filmed in New Mexico last October when it discharged a live round, killing 42-year-old Helena Hutchins. Baldwin said in an Instagram post that throughout this difficult process, everyone has maintained the specific desire to do what is best for Helena's son. Details of the settlement, which also includes Rust Movie Productions, the limited liability company formed to make the movie, were not disclosed.
All right, gentlemen.
It was also announced production on the movie would restart in January.
Beatles fans twist and shout over the release of never-before-seen footage showing the Fab Four on tour in Japan, following a fierce court battle over the 35-minute video. The silent black and white footage of the British boy band's only visit to the country in 1966 was recorded by police as a security measure. It shows John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr descending from a plane in matching kimonos and performing to an ecstatic crowd at the Budokan Arena in Tokyo. The footage also featured behind-the-scenes police operations. The new video has a noticeable quirk, but the faces of everyone except the Beatles, from crying admirers to officers facing off with right-wingers protesting the tour, have been pixelated for privacy reasons. This had been a key sticking point for fans and freedom of information advocates who fought a long and winding road, demanding that the footage remain uncensored. They took their case all the way to Japan's Supreme Court, arguing that the video was a historical document and pleading with the judiciary to simply let it be. Yet the top court overruled the case in 2018, and the footage was released late last month after 4 painstaking years of pixelation work, said Satoshi Shinkai, head of the civic group that fought the legal battle with authorities. The Beatles remain hugely popular in Japan, but toured the country only once, playing 5 concerts, and were trailed by legions of screaming fans.
With its strong aroma of cardamom and its yellowy tea-like consistency, Arabic coffee is a ubiquitous symbol of hospitality across Gulf countries, not least in World Cup host Qatar. The coffee is prepared by roasting the coffee beans and then boiling them with cardamom and saffron. The traditional qahwa is usually enjoyed in the Qatari Majlis, the all-male gathering that forms the centerpiece of social life in the country. Lanka Pereira, a Sri Lankan expatriate who has lived in the tiny gas-rich Gulf Emirate for 3 years, says she didn't know that she was drinking coffee because you don't taste the coffee that you already know.
The ingredients, basically, the cardamom, saffron, and the coffee beans. Basically, I didn't know that it has coffee in it. Like, you know, you don't taste the coffee that we already know. So it's different. So that's something I learned. And then the gestures, the special signs associated with it, that's something new. So yeah, being in here, Qatar for 3 years, like this is something very special.
We put it at the mouth of the, it's natural, for sure.
We're not getting coffee tonight. Too late.
Tonight now.
Well, let's take a look back on some historical events that happened on this day, October 6. In 1762, Britain occupied Manila. It was an episode in colonial history of the Philippines when the Kingdom of Great Britain occupied the Spanish colonial capital of Manila and the nearby port of Cavite for 20 months. In 1896, Filipino nationalist Jose Rizal is arrested en route to Cuba via Spain and imprisoned in Barcelona. And in 2010, Instagram was launched. The app reached 1 million registered users after just 2 months and 1 billion users by 2018.
And we're more than halfway through the week, and to help you go through the rest of it, here's a quote from George Eliot, an English writer. It's never too late to be what you might have been.
Not just what you might have been. Like, you can keep reinventing yourself as much as you want.
And there is no set age as to when you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to have accomplished this. You know, especially since the pandemic happened.
A lot of people changed.
Exactly. And this is a time for discovery, self-discovery, I mean.
If you were to reinvent yourself or to be different, what would you be?
I have so many things in my mind right now.
I think this year I want to be a millionaire.
Well, you can
wondering
choose,
how
right?
I can make that happen.
Let's start tomorrow.
Starts today. Well, that's a wrap for tonight's news sketch. The latest updates on our social media channels. I am CJ Hero.
And I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.